Hello and welcome to The Appointment. I'm Pranjal Sharma. Joining me today for a conversation is Ankur Bhatia, who's the Executive Director of Amadeus India, as well as the Executive Director of the Bird Group. Ankur, thanks for being with us. Ankur, you wear so many different hats, but let me begin by talking about Amadeus India. Even though your focus remains travel and hospitality, as a global technology platform for the travel industry, where is Amadeus India today?
Well, it's been now nearly 25 years for the first computer which was set up in Mumbai, and I initiated that by doing a physical installation where we were getting internet bandwidth and speeds of 2.4 bytes per second. We were using green and black screens, and now fast forward to what we are right now, majority of our business comes through online. So large players actually, Make My Trip, Yatra, Clear Trip, all these guys, we are the back-end powering engine for them to use the technology what we are provisioning them. What I see is that for this particular sector, of course, there's growth. And I think we see a double-digit growth happening in any case year on year, because the base what we have in terms of the travel transactions is very, very small.
But for Amadeus, how has it changed in the last 20 years? I mean, of course, a lot of things would have changed, but what are the fundamental ways in which you're operating? Has the technology become sharper? Has your capacity increased? Are you offering new solutions to the Indian market, which may have been launched in the last few years, which are very different from what you were doing earlier? It's
been extremely consistent and extremely, I think, innovating over these years. So we've been in the area of innovation ever since. I mean, we launched a mobile booking engine when mobiles were not equipped to actually take those bookings. And now with the mobile revolution coming in, of course, we've done a lot in terms of technologies to change that happen. But since the content is the king, and a lot of content is there right now, the idea is to get the best fare between a city pair. And that's where we invested a lot, so search engines and technologies where, at a split of a second, we can get various options for the end traveler to see through, again, intermediary through a travel agency. That's where we are specializing in. And of course, I mean, technology is getting driven on to the computing power is increasing day by day, and we are actually utilizing all of that which is available in order to deliver the best performance and the fastest performance to the travel agency.
How big is your market share, and can you give us some sense of the daily transactions? How many passengers avail of the services, even though it's not a consumer-centric or focus, but consumer benefits from what you're offering?
Yes, of course. I mean, as I mentioned, we were doing 700-800 bookings a month. Today we do 2 to 2.5 million bookings a month. So it accumulates up to 35 million bookings, net bookings, because they're booked and cancelled. So, cancellation ratio sometimes 60-70%. So the net transactions are much higher. We have approximately 75,000 desktops across the country, which we are supporting. Travel agencies owned, some of them are ours. So it's a fairly large network, and we have a market share of nearly 60% in the market space. And I think that is consistently growing over these years as well. And as I mentioned, online is helping us because the kind of technologies what we developed for online are by far very different from what our competitors have been doing over the last years.
That's an important point, because travel trade for the B2B section has really transformed, and it has made consumers can directly book airlines, which it's such a normal thing to do today, which maybe 5 or 6 years ago we could not even imagine doing that. How has that impacted Amadeus?
Yes, a substantial amount of business happens through online. But having said that I think even now we add at least 2,000 or 3,000 travel agencies every month, new agencies. And I think that is because the credit card penetration at the end of the day is not that high. While the online retailers still go on a cash on delivery model, because here you're booking online, I think that model might not be that successful. So you still end to go to your nearest PCO, earlier PCO, which is obviously those have actually transformed into travel agency or intermediaries or booking kiosks where you actually go and make your booking, and they do they do the transaction on behalf of the end consumer. So this will keep on happening, of course. I mean, there is penetration. We serve from our own desktops approximately 200 to 150 cities across the country. But again, this is
and
growing.
the South Asia region.
And the South Asia region as well. So, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and on and so forth. But I think in India, the growth is very different to what we've seen in other countries.
How so?
Penetration is just internet penetration. It's just that people have started growing from those cities which were not that large at one given time. And of course, online. A substantial amount of business has transformed. Having said that hasn't led to a loss of agencies, which people said that.
For a lay passenger, even if I book a ticket online, I still have to go through your system, right?
Well, yes and no. So all the full service, not through my system. I mean, you'll have to go. If you book a system ticket online, there are two options for you to do. Either go to an online travel agency, which is the ones which I did mention, or go to an airline. When you go to an airline.com, you don't see choices. So essentially, you go back to online travel agencies, which offer sometimes prices which are better than airline.com websites. And we are the back-end engine behind that. So when the search is done, when the ticket is booked, it's our technology which empowers that.
So that's a fascinating piece. With the 4G rollout happening in the next few months, and phones becoming a very important tool for transacting business, and travel industry is really at the forefront of that. How will that change the market for Amadeus?
See, our company does a lot of development, a lot of R&D, a lot of innovation, and that is done keeping in mind what the future technologies are. So when you looked at an online booking using phone as a device, as I mentioned, we did it in 1998 together with Ericsson. So that's nothing new for us. The idea is now to enhance that, to give the best fares, to do that the process becomes shorter and quicker. But at the end of the day, the fulfillment has to be done by the online travel agency. And I think that bit of non-availability of payment mechanisms, well, yes, there's Paytm and other things that are coming in. And of course, the online travel agencies are getting integrated into that particular process. But we are geared up completely. So, if today's date, somebody takes that initiative to ensure that all of that, what is happening, happens on mobile, which will happen for sure.
Ankur, while you've been a pioneer in the technology-led aviation sector through Amadeus, now your group is also has launched a chain of hotels in India. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, hospitality was the next thing after we've got a substantial amount of market share in travel IT, and here we are with 4 hotels as the beginning for us, 2 in India and 2 in the UK.
And you have given a very interesting name to it.
Yes, we call the hotels which belong to us and managed by us, Roseate Hotels and Resorts. And where the word comes is Roseate is a bird. Our parent company is the Bird Group. My first hotel, which was made, was formerly the Dusit Devrana, New Delhi, has a hues of rose in it in terms of its architecture and interiors, and that's where we sort of coined that word, and fitted very well across all our properties as well.
Launching a luxury chain at this time of India's evolution, people would say that the market is really growing in the middle or the lower middle section where the volumes are picking up. So are you going against the trend?
Well, yes and no. Yes, the market growth is happening in the 3 and 4 star space, but there is a market for the 5 star and luxury space as well. In fact, it's been after 30 years that we are an Indian-led brand which is setting up a management and ownership across in the UK, and I think we are very proud of that. But luxury hospitality over the years have also evolved. There has been trends of what has happened earlier, and I don't think. I think we are. I wouldn't say that we are a disruptor, But we've looked at luxury hospitality in a different way, keeping art and design element across our properties as a core focus, and concentrating on the guest experience around that.
Where do you see the demand coming from? Do you see this from inbound travelers from other countries? Do you see corporate and top-end business travel being a part of your strategy?
So our inventories across our hotels is not that high. When you talk about luxury, you can't do thousands and thousands of rooms. It's a niche market what you're addressing to. It's a multi-folded market space. When you talk about India, you talk about 200 or 300 million Indian domestic travelers, for which there's a segmentation which will definitely want to stay in luxury hotels. And we want to give them experience which they can get anywhere, or experience which they can't even get in a lot of parts of the world. We've done that bits and pieces in terms of architecture and our services, which gives them a very international feel to whenever they're staying in our properties. And again, the same thing in the UK as well. So while we are an Indian originated brand, we take the hospitality bit of India, but we also take what is happening internationally and try to ensure that the best guest experience happens.
You're in a very good place, because I can tell you from my experience that I think Indian hotels and hospitality sector is amongst the best in the world. Wherever you go, even the developed countries, they're very, very cold and not so welcoming to their guests. But the experience of some of the global luxury brands in India has not been good. Some entered, tried to expand, and then they wrapped up their bags and went back. What are the learnings from those? How do you make sure that you don't make the mistakes that they did?
See, luxury hospitality is a very personalized experience, and I think that's been true for all the large luxury brands across the globe. We have and we will try to ensure that personalization remains in the product what we deliver to the end consumer. And I think while the international brands which are sort of wanting to come in, if they've done their own investments, I think they've stayed. But when you go to a standard management contract, I think it's a bit of a challenge, because obviously, when you're developing luxury, when you're developing an ethos, when you're developing a brand, there's something which is more than just a plain cookie cutter approach when you set something up. And I think, and I'm a very strong believer that once you've done that, once you've gone into creating and spent time and effort and money in creating an international product, it makes more sense that if you're doing multiple properties, so that's one way to look at it, is that okay, I'm individual guy, I'm developing this particular property which is a part of a larger real estate play. Yes, somebody else comes and manages that. But when you are getting into that business of owning and managing your own hotels, I think it's very important then that if you are wanting to take it forwards, that your brand ethos, your branding, your DNA is inculcated in that particular, and that can only happen if you own and do it yourselves.
That's a good point, Ankur, because a lot of the global chains and some of the Indian chains are going for the asset light model, where they don't own the property but they just have a franchise arrangement. But it's also interesting, and I want to dwell on that. You mentioned it earlier that it's rare for an Indian entrepreneur to launch his or her own brand in hospitality sector. We have not seen that in many years, as you mentioned. Why is it, and here I'm talking about India as a place to do business and for entrepreneurship, why is it that Indians are hesitating to launch more domestic Indian-owned hotel brands? Last was the big chains, but you are now creating the new wave, perhaps.
Yes and no, because you've had successful chains like Lemon Tree, for example, which has done a fabulous job in the segmentation where they are.
But they are few and far between.
Yes, the thing is, hospitality business has a lot of real estate connotation to it. Now, real estate yields definitely differently when it is not used for hospitality. A lot of real estate players want to monetize their assets quickly, and hospitality is not the way, specifically in India, to do that. So if you want to get those returns coming in, and the larger ones, I don't think anybody has the patience to put on to that asset, and then afterwards take that yield off or an net EV value at the end of the day. So they rather want to make apartments and other things, and then
it would have been easier for you, once you acquire land, to rent it out to a global chain, but you took the harder path.
Yes, as I mentioned to you, because we are looking at this as a longer play. We are looking at this as I think it's passion at the end of the day. I don't think it's monetizing on assets. I don't think it's the way we are looking into it is making a quick buck and a turnaround in the investments what we've done. It is driving it for the future. It's driving the brand for delivering something which is unsurpassed by our designers.
Ankur, you're one of the few entrepreneurs who's launched a luxury hospitality hotel brand in India in recent years, and you're also going abroad with that brand, Roseate Hotels. Tell me, what has been the experience of actually creating a new structure, building 3 or 4 properties, compared to your experience of doing business in India for 25 years? How much easier has it been?
Well, I must say my experience of working in the UK and acquiring and managing that business has been much more, it's different. I mean, it's much easier to, because those are, I think, mature economies. They are economies which have had the experience of where India has been earlier, ages back. And also, in terms of luxury, the market there is already developed. From an Indian point of view, we need to start developing that market. We are at the nascency of actually developing a luxury segmentation. Very limited amount of people come and spend that much amount of money because it's a far-fetched destination. The PR which the country has done, or because of whatever news happens, you don't get those people coming in. But of course, I mean, it's improving, and I feel that in the future it will happen.
For the hospitality sector, what are the things that you would put on the agenda of the government to make things easier? Of course, a lot of it has to be done by regional governments and local bodies, but what has improved and what needs to be improved?
Well, from an setup point of view, I think the ease of setting up hotels in terms of getting approvals and all that, it is completely whacked right now. I mean, it just takes ages. This particular property where we're conducting this deal took 1 whole year for our final approvals to come in before we could roll ourselves out to the public. So I think if that can be shortened and the policies there could be streamlined and there could be a single window approach, it'll definitely help entrepreneurs coming in and doing much more in that particular segmentation. From a segmentation of, after that, operating those hotels, taxation today, and I think when GST comes in, will get streamlined. But it is hugely, the sector is hugely taxed. So, at the end of the day, the buck you spend, a lot of that goes into indirect taxation as well, making it, sort of unreasonable for individuals to spend money here because they've got options. They've got options near shore to go to the UAE, Dubai, Singapore, Thailand, which are more friendlier places of doing it. The third thing is infrastructure around yourselves. So yes, we've created this cocoon of spaces around, the properties what we do create. But then what happens afterwards? The person has to go out. They has to see other things as well, nightlife, other places.
So the atmosphere in the city will become important. In the travel sector, again, a lot of policy initiatives which you're talking about, that, you may brand India, but the reality does not always match the perception. The central government has taken a lot of initiatives to make, coming to India much more easier. There's a lot of focus on encouraging domestic travel. Has that enhanced the market?
Continuously, yes, it is enhancing the market, but I think from a policy point of view, there are 2 things. If you look at the numbers right now, there are 110 million domestic travelers. We did a study because obviously they go through, I think individually there are 30 to 35 million individual travelers who fly, of a population base of 300 million people who can actually go and take to air skies. Now, why is that? Because the people who are actually wanting to transfer or travel between city pairs, they're not serviced right now. The government did come out with a new civil aviation policy for the first time, and I think hats off, because obviously this was needed. And they did focus on regional aviation as well. But more what is required, if any entrepreneur were to set that up, is infrastructure. Because, yes, Delhi is geared up. Mumbai is not geared up, to handle those many amount of planes. So there are 300 million people who can actually take to skies. And if they take at least 2 flights.
Tourism and hospitality, aviation, in all of it, we have serious capacity constraints.
Yes, we have infrastructural capacity constraints across across board, across our country. Hotel rooms, I would also give you an example here. Delhi has 40,000 branded rooms of a population base of 23 million people. If you compare that to London or to Thailand or to Beijing, all these cities are in the range of 100 to 150,000 rooms. So there is a gap between what we have right now. Yes, the demand is going to come up as long as we have the supply quadrant all focused on and fixed off. Same thing with aviation as well. I mean, today, if I want to fly to Jaipur and from Jaipur to Jodhpur or Udaipur and do it, Rajasthan circuit, I can't. I'll have to come back and do it. If I have to fly between state capitals right now, which is, Chandigarh and Lucknow, I can't fly because there aren't any flights, and there are multiple bus services across those city pairs.
You have been engaging the government also because you used to be with the CII as the Northern India head. So has the industry engagement been able to convince the government to improve the atmosphere for increasing the capacity?
See, I mean, what we've seen over these years, yes, there has been a definitive improvement. I mean, you see the Delhi airport right now, what it was 10 years back is very different. Mumbai airport is very different.
And now there's focus on regional airports.
Absolutely. So even regional airports have been very different. But even if you look at the regional airports, the development has been, the airside infrastructure and the city side infrastructure have not been correlated and incubated in those cities. So Chandigarh, yes, just as an example, they've got a new terminal, but the runway still remains the same Air Force runway. It's got some watch hours which you can't sort of go on. So some cities have got the capacities upgraded on the air side, but the terminal side is not upgraded. So those are mismatches across the country. But as I mentioned to you, I mean, Rome was not built in a day. But having said that these are things which the government should look into it, because at the end of the day, if 100 million people can take onto skies against those 30, it will just incubate a lot in terms of employment, intra-trade, savings across board, and a lot of other things.
Well, we hope, Ankur, that government will take these policies, but entrepreneurs like you are not waiting for things to be perfect, but you're going ahead. Thanks very much for being on the show, and our best wishes for your new diversifications and new initiatives.
Thank you. Thank you, Pranjal.